We've got a gorgeous morning this morning. It's nice and sunny, which is good for us, but not so good for the fishing. The temperature is supposed to be going up to about 4 or 5 Celsius. The only thing is that when it's not overcast, the steelhead, especially in the lower section of tributaries, can be very spooky. So we're going to have to not move around too much and cast right out in the trough. So first things first, I'm going to rig up a nice spawn sack. I've decided to go with white color to start off with. This is the spawn sack here. And what I'm going to do is pierce it right through the center. I want some juices to come out of it. And I want that hook exposed. So this is classic. This is dime size. So we're going to see how it's going to work. I think it's very, very good size to use with the clear water conditions. So we're going to start drifting and see what happens. It's early morning and it's about -3. So the line is a little coily. Yes! You know, we kept drifting and drifting and drifting. No hits. Just goes to show you that you have to be persistent. It's funny because I told my wife who's fishing with me that it might be a later bite because of the cold temperature. And it's about 9:30. We got to the river about 8 o'clock, 8:30. And this is the first fish on. I'll tell you, it feels so good. The water's a little high this year, so you can see that there's a little bit of flooded grass in behind us. And that's one good thing for the trout because they've got lots of water to come up. A lot of our friends have said that the fish have already gone upriver. And you know, the regular season doesn't open till about the end of April. So we're still fishing, some of my friends and Barb and I, in the lower stretches. And I think if you're persistent, you can get fish to hit. There's always some fish around. Oh, gorgeous. This is a beautiful, fresh female. Just got to find a place to put my rod down, so I'll be right back in a minute. Okay, my wife is holding the rod because I've got to wait out in the water. I'm going to show you how beautiful this fish is. It is gorgeous. I'm trying to see how I'm going to grab it here. It's not a big fish, but you know what? It is beautiful. We've got geese frolicking all over the place. Look at, isn't this a gorgeous, gorgeous silver steelhead? So it's early spring and it's down in the bottom of the tributary. I gotta tell you, you gotta have the right gear to get these fish to hit. Okay, I'm gonna get it back in the water. Beautiful. This clear water. You know, I knew it was going to be a tough fish today because the sun is bright. We don't have a lot of wind, so there's no clouds in the sky. And the water's pretty clear. We didn't have any rain for the last couple of days. So what happens is a lot of the fish that are in the lower sections of the tributaries shoot upstream. and we can't get to those fish until after the regular season opens, which is about in a month from now. So, but I really don't fish for those fish after they're done spawning. I just really appreciate getting the fish that are fresh run, that come in from the lake and that are in the lower sections of the tributaries, where I can use floats and either use plastic grubs, nymphs, sometimes single legs, and especially fresh roe bags to catch them. So I've got to tell you a little bit about floats. So this little segment is going to be about different floats for different applications. Now, my good friend Bill Selby is a real fan of using porcupine quill floats. That's what I'm holding up here in my hand. These floats can be very dangerous, so I actually wrap them up in a bag, plastic bag, and I put them in the back of my back because they have very sharp tips. You could pretty well stab yourself with this. They're even though they look lightweight, they're almost like glass, but they're very strong, and they take quite a bit. I would say these are probably 3 grams. So they take a few small split shot sinkers. Now, the reason Bill likes to use these is because when you cast in the wind, especially with the drift rod, they literally follow the weights and they shoot through the air, so they're very aerodynamic. Where a larger bulb type float, you know, the wind will catch it and they won't be able to go through the air as fast. Also, when it hits the water, we weigh them down so that pretty well only about maybe a ½ inch is sticking out of the water, at the most an inch. So because they're like glass, they're extremely sensitive, and as soon as a fish touches it, it goes under a bit, you can set the hook. And Bill's notorious for literally jumping back because he's used up to a 15-foot rod. I use a 13-foot rod to get his fish. So quill floats are great if you're fishing slow water and you're using just not too much weight, and you want a natural drift, especially when the fish are holding closer to the bottom, the water's cleared up, you're fishing a deeper pool, and they hit lightly. And let me tell you, some days they hit so lightly that you see this float go under just like this a little bit, and you got to set the hook or they let go of it. So the next float that I'm going to show you are the classic. These are the, you know, the clear plastic floats. This is one that's a little bit more slender than the one I've been using. So it takes a little bit less weight. And what I do, by the way, I pre-weigh these floats down at home. So you can see that I've got a swivel there just to hold the weight so they don't go. And in this case, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weights. That's just the right. Instead of being on the stream and having to put weights on and not remembering which float takes how much weights. So this has a little section of line, and I keep that in my little Ziploc bag. So this one is a little bit light for the fishing that I was doing today. The one that I was doing today was more like this float, but not in a slip bobber. So this particular one, the line goes through it. It's a slip bobber. I especially like using those when I'm fishing in deeper water because I do feel that when you set the hook, you're not dragging the float through the water. The line goes through the float and then you can get the fish. And you can see that there's a few larger split shot there. So this is weighed down to fish a little bit deeper water and to get a little bit of a slower drift. And then the last one I'm going to show you, this was made by a friend of mine. His name was Matt Shanley. Unfortunately, he passed away at a very young age. He was in his 20s. He used these balsa wood floats that he handmade, and they're almost like a pencil. And this again would be about a 3 to 4 gram float. And it works extremely well, and the only part of the float that's designed to be out of the water is where you see that it's that bright chartreuse color. So this float also works well, but it's a little bit more buoyant than the clear glass one. So, you know, one thing that I stress to people, if you're float fishing, especially if you're new to the game, you know, there's a reason why there's so many floats on the market. The clear floats, by the way, work really well in clear water because the fish won't see the float. These quills here work really well. And if you want to get some of these, the best places to go is like on eBay, or you could probably go on Amazon. And there are farms in the US, especially down like in Texas, because these are also really good if you fish for panfish. They're so sensitive. You use a small plastic grub on like a 1/32 ounce, 1/64 ounce jig head, or right up to a 1/8 ounce or 16th ounce. They work really well with those small grubs. So they actually have farms that they raise or keep African porcupine. They're pretty big porcupine, and the quills, some of these quills are over 12 inches long. So you can order them online, and I'll tell you what, they are very good, very sensitive. If you have a good combination of these floats, if you're starting out in float fishing and you experiment with weights and fishing different runs in pools, I think you're going to catch some fish. See you in the next video.